Okay. All right, let me take another call. This one from David in Ithaca, New York. David, you're on Talk of the Nation.
Thanks, Juan. I'm glad to have the opportunity, Mr. Hashami, to express the great pain and sorrow that your government has caused to myself as a Buddhist and to Buddhists all over the world by the destruction of these two great, beautiful and wonderful statues. I want to make the point, first of all, that this is not fundamentally a religious issue because all other Islamic nations around the world have expressed disgust and dismay at the policy of your government towards these Buddhist statues. And also, Islam has been in Afghanistan for something like 1,000 years. And up until the last few weeks, no Afghan leader had ever thought it necessary to destroy these wonderful works of art that are part of your nation's history, culture, and the heritage of your children. The problem is that your government has no respect for other people and for the rights of other people to worship freely whatever religion they choose.
Well, David, let's stop there for a second and get a response from Mr. Hashami.
I really sympathize with you, but you have missed...
What do you mean you sympathize?
Oh, I missed...
When you've destroyed these statues and you're going to go on destroying the religious articles of other religions.
Let me explain whether it was an act of discrimination or not. We have said that in 1997 we said that we will preserve all these statues. So why the people destroyed it now is that a different question. And we have done it not in any kind of discriminations towards any kind of religion. Still, those statues which are worshipped in Afghanistan by the Hindu community are preserved. And they are still going there and praying to that statues, and we have kept that for that. We have not done it based on any kind of...
Statues that you destroyed are holy objects to all Buddhists everywhere in the world.
So let me explain that. So we have said...
How would you feel if...
Wait, let him speak, David.
...destroyed mosques?
David, let him speak. Go ahead, Mr. Hashami.
Let me explain it to you. I have never said that we have done it towards discrimination to the Buddhists. We respect their religion, and we still respect that. And that decision was taken by the Council of Scholars, approved by the Supreme Court, and could not be broken down by the head of the government. So,
wait a second. So you're saying the Taliban was not responsible for the destruction of the statues, that it was really the cleric's decision?
The cleric's decision, and we had said that we will save them. But you can't just deny what the scholars said, and the Supreme Court passed that message.
We said you used your army and your military to destroy the statues.
That's right. We have to obey the orders of the Supreme Court. That happened. We said that all the statues that are harmed.
Who controls the Supreme Court? Why is it that in 1,000 years of Islam in Afghanistan, it was never even thought about to destroy these statues?
I'm coming on this. Any statues that are harmless to us, we will not destroy it. And we have said that we will keep this. It happened when the United Nations and some foreign visitors came there and tried to repair these statues, and we told them, please, we don't need the repair of these statues. For us, our future is much important than our past. Please help the children who are dying. 700 children died of malnutrition 1 month ago. It's according to the UNICEF survey. And we told them, please help these children who are dying. And the people were angry after they rejected this. Because when I called from here, and I was myself confused as to what is happening, because it was a headache for me too. I called them and they told me that if the world does not care, or if the world is destroying the future of our children with economic sanctions, how do they care about our past?
Lauren Jenkins?
Aren't you saying, what you're telling us here is that basically you destroyed these two great statues that represent antiquity in Buddhism out of pique because the UN wanted to give money to repair them. Why couldn't you just leave them if you didn't want the money? You didn't have to destroy them. I mean, this is just an act of sheer pique on your part to thumb your nose at the world.
Well, when people go on demonstration, even in your streets, they destroy windows, they destroy cars. They shouldn't do it. But I have to say that these are the realities of war. All the problems in Afghanistan or the leftovers of war, and that war was not ignited by us. That war was ignited by the international community. And the problems in Afghanistan are the reflections of the world policies. If you don't like the image in the mirror, please do not break the mirror. Break your face. So this is our saying, that the situation there is not our creation. That is reflecting the world policies. The world played with us. They fought there. The problems there are the leftovers of war.
Let me ask you a question here. We noted earlier in the show you're 24 years old. The oldest leader of the Taliban is 40 years old. But the clerics, the religious leaders, I suspect, are much older. Is that right?
That does not mean that they must be old. There are aged people, but it is not a condition that they must be old.
So in fact, then, does it mean that the clerics, being older people, have some seniority and in fact are telling the Taliban what they must do, and that the Taliban, composed of younger people, is reluctant to challenge these older clerics?
Look, I will explain what our government is. We have a head of the government. We have a council of ministers, and that this is the executive body. And we have a legislature. We have district councils, we have provincial councils, and we have a main council of people and scholars in Kabul. This is the legislature. And we have a judicial system, that is the Supreme Court and all, which is completely independent. The Supreme Court's decision is independent. So this decision was taken by the legislature, approved by the Supreme Court, and we waited for 2 weeks so that we can somehow find out a way out of this.
All right. Let me take a call from Ted, who's in Los Angeles. Ted, you're on Talk of the Nation. Go right ahead.
Yeah, you just answered my question, and this just points exactly where I thought it was going. You guys are fanatical. You're too young to run the country, and all you have to do is look at all the other totalitarian regimes around, and that's what you got. Thanks.
All right. Well, thanks for your call, Ted. Some people said you're fanatical. You're too young to run the country. But when you started this discussion with us today, you said really you were a group of students. Group of students who were reacting to what you saw as violence and instability in Afghanistan, and in fact trying to rescue 2 young girls who had been raped.
Who could do better than we did? This is the question. We reunified that country, we disarmed the people, we established peace and security there, we brought the eradication of opium cultivation, the narcotics. 75% of the world opium or the narcotics was produced in Afghanistan. We eradicated it. We have not been appreciated for any of these things. Okay, you're telling us that we are young. The old people failed to do anything. Oh, we did it. We did these things. The world has only sent us cruise missiles, sanctions, isolation, and criticism. What do you expect from a country that faces all these problems?
You're listening to Talk of the Nation from NPR News. Let's go to Bill, who's in Chicago. Bill, welcome to the Talk of the Nation.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to ask a question. When I think about Afghanistan now, I can't help but think of Cambodia in the 70s. I see the Taliban is going backwards and not forward. What does Mr. Hashami have to say about that?
Well, hang on a second, Bill. For everyone, explain why you see an analogy or parallel with Cambodia in the 70s.
Because the country's isolating itself, like just what you said about destroying those statues in a peak, and how everywhere in the world women seem to be getting more rights, and in their country it seems to be going backwards.
All right. Thanks for your call, Bill. By the way, Lauren, would you agree? You know that part of the world so well.
Well, I think that I can see where one could make some parallels. I think there are also great differences between Cambodia under Pol Pot and Afghanistan under the Taliban, although both movements were reactions to war that was brought on them. What I would disagree with Mr. Hashemi is this war was not created by the West or even by the Russians. The breakdown of Afghanistan began when your own people overthrew the king, and there was an internal civil war that later brought in that the Russians came in to help one faction against others. But the breakdown didn't just start with the Russians coming or the Americans coming later.
Mr. Hashami?
It's surprising. The Russians had that plan for centuries to invade Afghanistan, and nobody can deny this fact. They wanted the warm water ports, and they invaded Afghanistan. We are very thankful to the United States that helped us to get rid of the Russians, but at least they should not leave us alone with all those problems, the destruction. All the economy was destroyed, the millions of refugees, and all these things. There's a difference of perspectives. I've seen both the societies now. The people here have a Western perspective of Afghanistan, which is completely wrong. You cannot even pronounce our names correctly.
You can blame me, but I know you can blame everyone.
So if you can do that, that means there's a big difference between the societies. All these things, please don't make assumptions. Ask me questions. We have never said that women should not be educated. We have never said that women shouldn't go to work. We have said that we have our own principles. And these things are not only in Afghanistan. Go to Saudi Arabia. Women do educate, but separately. Women, even there, they cannot drive. What about Iran? Even in Pakistan, if you go there. So it doesn't mean 51% of our population is women. If they want us to change, they can change us in no time.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Saeed Hashami, roving envoy of the Taliban government of Afghanistan. Thanks again for coming in.